the topic of e-commerce, I want to deal it in a quite different manner. I've taken an approach which is drastically different from how Raymond Turner Potter deal with it. Mainly because of my own personal involvement in this topic and the lessons that I have personally learned. In fact, it's quite an interesting coincidence that we are discussing e-commerce now. This month and this year especially is very important for e-commerce. It becomes much more significant for me to discuss this topic before you, because as always I am feeling very old to tell this story to you, because the story happened in the year 2000 when this story happened. It's unbelievable that 10 years have gone. The year 2000, March 10th is a date which I cannot forget. Most of, I think, people of my age or old now cannot forget. Mainly because March 10th, 2000 marked something in our lives. It marked the victory of sorts for the thought that we were having at that time. That was a day when finally what people thought would happen actually happened. NASDAQ reached its highest value recorded in a particular day. When you now talk about dot-com bubble, and dot-com bubble was later, March 10, 2000 was its peak point. A year before, let's say I'm talking about 1999, was a very depressing year for us. Because that was a time when people said that the world is coming to an end. Now you have very few days left in your life, so enjoy it to the max. 1999, December 31st will be the last day we will not see year 2000, January 1. Mainly because, one, there was a bug and it was blown up by the media that come when the clock strikes the midnight moment, after that all the airplanes will crash, nothing will work, computers will come down. That was how world was in 1999. March 10th, the early period of 2000, marked some very eventful things. In the month of January 2000, seems also fresh. March 2000 in the January 2000 something happened. What happened was our, what should I say, superstar of that time, AOL, took over Times Warner Group. Times Warner Group was this mega entertainment group. AOL taking over Times Warner was symbolic victory of new age over old age economy. Now the time has finally come for the digital economy to take over this world. Was the feeling, the campus. Of course, that time when I say campus, you have to imagine the old Ramayana campus in 3 blocks, not a monolithic block like this. Hyperactive environment in our department especially, because we were only 30 and top of the world, literally. Because around this time, that is in the year 2000 March, voice was started in this department. The victory of Summit was named as Summit because of this only. We wanted wanted to tell everyone that we are now here. Coming, we have reached there. Literally so, because at that time we were there in that campus. What is today known as the MS Ramaya Advanced Study. MS Ramaya School of Advanced Studies. Building behind that, which is today the Law College, was where we were located. Information Science, Instrumentation, MCA, Telecommunications. We were housed there. And Medical Electronics was situated in the rooftop of Medical College. And we had to prove at that time that we are now the lords of the world in information science. 5,000 Nasdaq because of our .com companies. We wanted to hold a fest to counter the fest happening in MSRT. We were calling ourselves as MSRT 2, so MSRT 1. And we did not have any ground there to do this fest. So we celebrated our fest in the rooftop terrace of that department building, Medical College terrace. That was where fest was held, and that is why the name is Human Summit. Where the rooftop fest. But something else happened then actually. At that time, all of us were so blinded by the shining presence of .com professionals everywhere. Every day morning you saw the paper, there was some success story or other. A teenager from Bangalore started a website, and overnight he became the symbol of Bangalore as the IT capital. Subsequently, he became a student of our department. And after 2 years, he dropped out. The youngest billionaire in all, Suhas Gopinath. He was our student. But then he was just a teenager in Patrika. 12, 13 year old guy. Every other day we would see that .com would come up. Some big company would buy that .com for some $1 million. Front pages of newspapers always had some teenager with shining trophies, shaking hands with who is who of the industry. Things looked great actually. At that time, we had a session. That sessions were quite common. In that blog, it was a common practice to have an open house session every Wednesday afternoon, which kind of fueled most of our thinking. It was an open session. Anybody could come up and talk on anything. That was a time when there were no LCD projectors at all. People used to simply come, talk, and use boards for meeting point. In fact, entire MSRT at that point of time had only one LCD projector. It was like the most important possession of the college. To get that LCD projector, you had to go up to principal, wait for 15 days and get the projector. So that open house session did not have any projections and all. We used to simply talk. The sessions were not somehow that culture is lost today. We don't have open house sessions. In one of the sessions taught during these times, which I remember very clearly, was an e-com. Because we were dead sure that there would come a time in the next 2 years that we will not go to restaurant to eat. We will not go to shops to buy our clothes. We will just sit, order everything on the computer, everything will reach us. In fact, the famous joke at that time was, why should MSRT 2 should have a canteen? No, you can order everything online. So, what is the need of in-campus canteen was a question. In one of the important discussions we had at that time, with all of us, including me, we said that the world is coming to such a stage where e-commerce itself will rule. All these big shops which ever receive will go down and will create a new world order. The discussion went on for a long time, and finally one of my good friends, who then went on to IME and is now in a good position now in a private investment firm. He made a final point to seal the discussion for the day, and after that we discussed the topic. The point he made then was very powerful, and till today I think whenever we discuss discussing that yes, e-commerce will happen like this. He came, he told, it's impossible that India will ever see e-commerce in its avatar that you guys are trying to picture here. Not because of technology. Imagine, we were talking in those times where 1 in 100 students owned a computer. Not like every single person owned a computer. It was pretty costly, very few. Then we were discussing about e-commerce and how it will be successful. He came up and said that a very simple Indian psychology of wanting everything to touch and feel and then decide. He was giving an example of how we will select sarees and other clothes. E-commerce can never replace traditional business, at least in India. Very strong point after which no discussion took place, including Rajinikanth. Everybody told the final thing, we all go. We had our usual tea and we went home. Standing today after all these years, I feel that is what has made e-commerce a big failure in India. Not only in India, elsewhere also. If anybody today comes before me and says you want to do e-commerce, I will be furious. Can't even think about that idea of doing a e-commerce venture. Something didn't work for e-commerce. Before you start reading Raymond Potter on how e-commerce can change the world, I want you to know very clearly that e-commerce has not changed the world the way we thought. Amazon is there, but Sapna bookstore has not closed. I don't think it will ever close down. Earlier we thought it would close down. How many websites have survived and who are still young? But you may also recall some websites which you have seen at some point of your time which now don't exist at all. Can you recall? Now the website which existed at a particular point of time, they are now everyday user of it, but now it does not exist. World website. If you have seen stability, that means you are new generation or old. Don't remember. Are there any websites which you are using at some particular moment? Now it does not exist. Say Aura. Oh, your Alta. That's very interesting again. Many people can't recall a time where there was no Google. Probably you can't remember a time where there was no Google. But the whole world thought that a search engine called Teoma, T-E-O-M-A, Teoma, will become the leader in search engine, not Google. Teoma was the preferred search engine of everyone. How Google superseded all the competition and became a global leader is a fascinating story. It was not the number one choice. In fact, after Yahoo created its directory structure, in fact, Yahoo itself means what Yahoo stands for? Yet another hierarchical something oracle. What oracle? Yet another hierarchical something oracle. What is? Officious oracle. When Yahoo created the directory structure, the idea was that somebody should come up with an interactive search mechanism. And Teoma was the one who was leading after Ask. Ask Jeeves, later which became Ask, was the leading provider, but after that the next breakthrough came through Teoma. Google came to see much later. Alta Vista came much later. And and posed a competition which did not succeed very much. Right? There are some other which were phenomenal earlier but now does not exist at all. Very few have survived the test of time. I personally recall India. India.com was supposed to be the #1 portal for India, which was quite popular for a considerable amount of time, but never took off. There is one of my personal favorite, I keep on saying it, because that kind of symbolized my college life. Boo.com. Forget Boo.com. Boo.com, nobody knows today. But Boo.com was phenomenal. At a point of time, the glory of Boo.com was such that during 2099, they were sponsoring the entire mega event to give away the Best Website Award, which was the widely covered event than Oscar Awards ceremony. The Best Website Award ceremony. Best website, there were best websites, best design, interactive design and all that. And Boo.com was sponsors for this event, which was larger than Oscars. Where is it Boo.com today? Nobody knows where is Boo.com. What triggered the failure of the .com from at the peak of popularity in 2000 to the shallow depths in 2002? In fact, people say that if you want to study history, you should give 20 years time period to understand clearly. So already some 10 years are passing. So I think we can discuss on what triggered .com failure. Initially, I could not think of a reason on why .com failure. It was like we did everything, but now nobody wants to do such a site. But after seeing one more wave of technology up and down, I think all of us have become mature to understand the reason behind why .com did not succeed then. My personal take on the issue is, most of the .coms did not survive because only one problem. That problem is still true. There is no sound business logic. Why should someone start a website and think that he can make money? Nobody asks. Even today, no one asks. When I say business model, I am rightly focusing on revenue models, nothing else. I am not talking about the strategy at all. Let me make one thing very forcefully here. From the perspective of academics, we may be discussing 12 strategies or 120 strategies. I am not bothered. But when it comes to practical implementation, it's not the strategy which matters. The only thing which matters is bottom line. I am investing this much, can you guarantee me this much return within this period? Is your revenue model right? That is the only question. I think earlier what happened was, people speculated on the profits that could be made by e-com ventures. What is the value of Facebook today? What is the value of Facebook? If you want to buy Facebook, what is the valuation of Facebook? How does that valuation happen? That valuation is based on speculation. That valuation is based on the assumption that the wide user base which a e-com venture has can be translated into numbers, profitable numbers, which is a myth. Which is a myth. Can you tell me one e-commerce company which has made money till now? One company which has made money because of e-commerce. Look at the book profit of Amazon.com and see when did they start making profits. It is very, very difficult to actually money in internet. We don't have solid revenue models in e-commerce. I'm not saying there are no revenue models at all, but there are very, very few. So, if you have any plans of starting a e-commerce site, I keep hearing this from people. We keep getting business plans where people will say, I will start a e-commerce site to sell mobile phones because then we can make handsome money. We can get it from there. They have some business plan. But come on, where are the revenue? Where will we get the revenues from? And what is the kind of investment you think is required in starting an e-com venture? You can get a domain name and a space for 1,000 rupees a month. Does it mean that the whole investment required to start an e-commerce company is 1,000 rupees? Unfortunately, it's not. There is so many hidden costs which you don't understand at all. This is a basic mistake made even then, before 10 years. And that is a mistake being repeated now in a new way. See, any e-commerce venture cannot exist only in the cyber world through a website. You have to have a very strong back-end support to it. For example, if you are selling mobile phones through web, you should have a storehouse, you should have a delivery mechanism, you should have all the plans. Add to the fact that having a website in itself does not guarantee anything. Why should people come to your website? How will you make people aware that your website exists? These questions are never asked. Don't get carried away by big names such as Google. Everybody is favorite. And all those things. Their revenue models are not dependent on the number of visitors visiting their site and all those simple factors. They are much more complex. Google's business model is not directly proportional to the number of people who use their search facility. Their business model is rightly dependent on advertisers and their ability to pay for certain keywords. It is not you will be carried away if you think that it is the search which is fueling their growth. It is not the search. It is their AdSense program which has a robust way of determining the lowest value any bidder can pay for a particular keyword. That is what is driving Google. The whole point is this. People simplify this whole thing by saying that advertising. No, it's not advertising. Google does not gain by having those 3 or 4 advertisements on the right hand side. No. How does it gain? It gains because it auctions the keywords. Auctioning the keyword and the value associated with it comes from search phrases. Okay, let me simplify. The whole issue is this. Why there should be a critical mass coming to their website and doing searches, that is necessary. Let us imagine such a scenario where 100 people are going to Google website on an everyday basis. To simplify, 100 users are visiting Google website and they are using some 10 key phrases to search. 100 people using 10 key phrases, among them around 2 phrases are used by 80 people visiting the website. That data for me is very important. That's what is called as data analytics. Now, where Google is intelligent from all its competitors is that it rates the keywords using a very complex algorithm. It rates the keywords. Most popular keywords will have high value. If you want to return your ad in response to that keyword, you have to pay more. That logic is again same. That is not again Google's USP. What is Google's USP is it compares the money you have to pay for this keyword in Google and in all their competitors.